The wind tore across the plains like a banshee's cry, rattling the windows of the frontier chapel. Inside, she stood alone, dust on her boots, blood still crusted on the hem of her torn wedding dress. The pews were empty. No groom, no preacher, just silence and judgment. The townsfolk had taken one look at the scars on her arms, the flint in her stare, and whispered, "Not a bride, a brawler." Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky, but from the hooves of bandits sweeping toward the town, rifles glinting in the morning sun. She didn't flinch. Her hand rested on the hilt of her knife, and her heart burned with the memory of every battle that had made her this way. He arrived late, dusty, desperate, eyes searching, and when he found her standing defiant at the church doors, he didn't see a warrior. He saw home, and the fire of someone who'd fight beside him, not hide behind him. But could love really grow from bloodshed? Or was this another war waiting to happen? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story stirs something in you, hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow's tale is one you won't want to miss. Dust settled slow and golden across the open plain, clinging to the air like memory. In the distance, the faint shimmer of heat warped the edges of Dust Hollow, a town built on desperation and gunpowder. One main street, 2 saloons, and 3 graveyards. That's how folks measured the place. Outlaws passed through like thunderclouds, and justice rode a horse with no name. At the edge of town, near a split-rail fence, gnawed by wind and time, she stood, Clara McGraw, 32, skin sun-kissed and scar-laced. Her jawline was sharp as broken glass, her eyes like winter after fire, gray, piercing, searching. She wore her past in the way she moved, deliberate, guarded, quiet, but never unseen. She hadn't always been this hardened. Once, she'd written, letters in a soft hand, dreams of prairie roses and laughter in her own kitchen. But war, and worse, had carved all that away. She'd been a scout in the border militia. No one asked a woman to ride into Apache country, to track raiders, to kill or be killed. But Clara hadn't waited for permission. She just became what survival demanded. Still something in her kept to silence. She carried a letter in her pocket, folded and refolded 100 times. A proposal, not the kind scrawled by lovers with flowers and poetry. No, this was business. A mail-order bride agreement, arranged by his brother, a name she barely knew. Elijah Harrow, farmer, widow, needed help with land and child. No questions asked, the letter said, but now that she was here, he hadn't shown. Instead, the townsfolk showed their teeth. Narrow eyes, sharp whispers, looks, more like a hired gun than a homemaker. Lord help that man if she's what he's waiting for. Inside the general store, an older woman with iron-gray curls and a jaw like a vice watched Clara linger by the postboard. "You're looking for Elijah," she said flatly. Not a question, a statement. Clara nodded once. "Didn't expect you'd be..." The woman's eyes swept over Clara's gun belt. "Armed. I didn't expect him to be late," Clara replied. There was a silence between them, the kind women share when they've seen too much. He's out by Juniper Ridge, South Ranch. Lost a calf to raiders last week. Been staying close. Raiders. That word settled cold in Clara's gut. The old tension creeping back into her spine. Outside, a boy no older than 10 darted past on a stick horse, yelling, "The Comanche are coming! Grab your guns!" His mother scolded him sharply, pulling him by the arm. "You don't say that out loud, Sam. Not since the treaty. Treaty or not, everyone knew peace out here was like spring, brief, and always followed by something worse." Clara's boots crunched the gravel road as she walked, passing broken windows, wanted posters, and a town sheriff who barely looked up from his flask. No one offered kindness. Just space. Like they were waiting for something to explode, and Clara knew what they saw. Not a bride, not a woman, not really. They saw the calloused hands, the knife tucked in her boot, the shadow in her eyes. But they didn't see everything. They didn't see the burn scar over her ribs, the one shaped like a ring. They didn't know why she flinched at the sound of church bells. They didn't ask why she hadn't spoken to her sister in 12 years. And Clara never told. Out past the church, through the dusty haze, a figure rode hard toward town. Horse foaming, rider hunched low. People stopped what they were doing. Heads turned. A bell clanged somewhere in the distance. When he dismounted, dust caked and bloodied, he went straight to the sheriff. Clara moved closer, unseen, but listening. 5 miles out, he rasped. "We found what's left of the Johnsons' wagon. No survivors. Same pattern. Fast. Brutal. Didn't take supplies. Just burned it." The sheriff paled. "You sure it was Comanche?" The rider shook his head. "No, worse. No arrows. Just blades. Something darker than raiders. Something crueler than war." The rider's eyes flicked toward Clara for half a second, just enough to register her. "You might want to tell folks to lock their doors." Clara turned her gaze toward the horizon, toward Juniper Ridge, toward a man who had asked for help and didn't yet know what was coming for him or who he had invited into his life. She adjusted her satchel, the knife in her boot pressed against her ankle, a reminder of who she was and what she'd promised never to be again. But promises were just words, and war was never done with you. Clara found Elijah Harrow before sundown. Juniper Ridge was little more than a lean-to cabin, a corral, and a barn that leaned hard against the wind. No curtains in the windows, no laughter, just the lowing of a sick calf and the groan of the land itself. Clara dismounted and walked slowly, boots crunching dry soil, watching the door swing open. He stepped out with a shotgun in hand. Tall, broad-shouldered, face weathered by sun and silence. Elijah Harrow wasn't what she expected. No softness, no relief at seeing her. Just eyes like stone, locked on hers. "You Clara McGraw?" he asked. "I am. You shouldn't have come." The words hung heavy. She straightened, chin high. "Your brother sent for me." He nodded once. "He's dead." The wind shifted, and just like that, the world tilted. Died 3 days after the letter. Fever took him. Elijah looked past her, toward the hills. "I buried him by the creek." Clara blinked, the weight of distance, of loss, of pointlessness pressing on her chest. "So why didn't you send word?" "I didn't figure you'd still come." He studied her, really looked. "And when I saw you in town today, I didn't know what the hell he was thinking." Clara swallowed hard. "I didn't come for flowers and courtship. I came because I needed a place, a purpose. And what I need," Elijah said, voice clipped, "is someone who won't draw knives at supper when the wind shifts. You're not a wife. You're a warning." Before Clara could reply, the barn door burst open. A small girl, no more than 7, ran out barefoot, hair tangled, face smudged with dirt. She threw herself at Elijah's leg and stared at Clara with fierce, assessing eyes. My daughter, Lucy, Elijah said gruffly. The girl didn't speak, just clutched a ragged doll and blinked at Clara like she already knew her secrets. Clara knelt. Hello, Lucy. The girl hesitated, then took Clara's hand. Cold, steady. Inside, Elijah said, voice low. They sat at a table made of splintered pine. He didn't offer food. She didn't ask. You said you needed purpose, he finally said. Well, I can't pay you, but I can offer shelter for a week. Then you move on. I don't need charity. No, he said, but you need safety, and I don't think you have much of that left. Before Clara could fire back, the dog barked. Once, then again, frantic. Elijah was up in a flash, shotgun at the ready. Clara followed, hand on her blade. She stepped out into the twilight and saw them, 3 riders at the ridge, silhouetted by the dying sun. They didn't move, just watched. One raised a gloved hand in a slow, mocking wave. Elijah cursed. That's Coyle's mark. One of the barbed circle. Clara's stomach tightened. Outlaws, she asked. Elijah nodded. They've been poking around for weeks. Used to be just cattle theft. But now, they're bolder. They want the land. They'll come at night, Clara said quietly. Yes. Why haven't you gone to the sheriff? Elijah let out a bitter laugh. The sheriff takes his cut. They all do. So that was it. Clara looked out at the horizon, at the long shadows and the coming dark. There would be no help, no law, only what they could hold with blood and grit. Then we don't wait, she said. Elijah looked at her, something flickering in his eyes. You don't know what you're getting into. No, Clara replied. They don't know what I am. Later that night, Clara stood in the barn, wrapping leather around her hands, testing the weight of her old militia rifle. It had been buried deep in her satchel, hidden, like the version of herself she'd tried to kill off. Lucy appeared at the door, silent, watching. Clara crouched and held out the rifle. You ever seen one up close? Lucy nodded. Daddy says, I'll learn when I'm 10. Clara smiled, faint and sad. I was 8 when I learned. No one asked me. From the shadows of the hayloft, something shifted. A shape, too tall for Elijah, too wide for Shadow. Clara shoved Lucy aside, just as a blade arced down from above, slashing through the air where the girl had stood seconds before. A masked figure dropped to the floor, eyes wild, blade already rising again. Clara didn't hesitate. She drove forward, slamming her shoulder into his chest, knocking them both to the ground. Dust choked the air. The intruder growled, twisted, and bolted through the back doors into the night. Elijah came running, gun raised. What happened? Clara stood slowly, breath heaving. They're not just watching. She touched her side. Her shirt was wet. Blood. They're already here. The dawn after the attack came blood orange and brittle. Clara stood over a shallow grave near the ridge, eyes hard as stone, one hand pressed to her stitched wound, the other resting on her rifle. The man she'd killed in the night hadn't worn a gang mark. No sigil, no warning, just a blade and dead eyes, too clean, not barbed circle. She muttered. Elijah knelt beside her, burying the attacker with a shovel more used to clay than corpses. Then who the hell sent him? Clara didn't answer, because a terrible thought had already taken root. Someone knew she was here, and not just anyone. Someone from her past. Back at the cabin, Lucy sat silent at the table, clutching the ragged doll tighter than usual. Clara knelt to check her bandaged arm, scraped during the attack. Lucy didn't flinch. "You fight like my mama did." Clara stilled. "She was a fighter?" Lucy nodded. "She died protecting me." "From who?" Elijah entered, voice low. "That's not a story for now." But Clara had seen it. Lucy's mother hadn't died in childbirth, like Elijah claimed. She'd been killed. And from the haunted way Elijah avoided Clara's gaze, she suspected he'd never told the full truth. By mid-morning, Clara insisted they leave. "They'll come again," she said, "this time with fire." Elijah was hesitant. "If we run, we lose everything. If you stay, you lose Lucy." That ended the argument. They loaded supplies onto a mule-drawn cart and took to the broken trail east, an old outlaw path through the Ghostwood ravine. Few dared it. No law, no light. But Clara had ridden it before, years back, during a failed skirmish that left half her unit slaughtered. She never spoke of it. Not even now. The ravine closed around them like a throat. Twisted trees, gnarled with ash and shadow, flanked the trail. Lucy rode in the back, cradled in furs. Elijah walked beside the cart. Clara scouted ahead. They barely spoke for hours. Not until the silence cracked. "You knew this trail too well," Elijah finally said. Clara didn't look at him. "I've been hunted before." He nodded. "But you weren't running from outlaws back then." "No." She left it at that. That night, they made camp beneath the crumbling husk of an old way station, long abandoned by riders and raiders alike. Elijah built a fire. Clara cleaned her wound. Lucy dozed near the embers, arms curled around her doll. "You saved her," Elijah said quietly. "Back at the barn. I'd do it again." He stirred the fire, staring into the flames. "You didn't come just for shelter or work. What are you really running from, Clara?" Clara didn't answer right away. Her fingers traced the handle of her knife absently. 2 years ago, she said finally. "I was stationed in Durango. A raid on a weapons caravan went south. We were ambushed. Someone sold our position. I was the only one who made it out." Elijah looked up. "Some think I was the traitor." "Were you?" Clara met his eyes, firelight dancing between them. "If I were, I wouldn't be hiding in Dust Hollow with a bullet in my side." He studied her. "Then who sold you out?" "I don't know." She paused. "But the man last night? He wasn't here for you. He called me by name." The next day brought more rot. A creek they'd planned to use was dry, poisoned upstream, the water thick with black sludge. Elk carcasses rotted in the brush, eyes pecked by vultures. Clara's nerves screamed. "Someone's cutting off our path," she muttered. That night, they pushed further east, but ran into a trap, wire strung across the trail, a snare on the mule's leg, a rusted mine half buried in the soil. It wasn't just bandits. It was someone tactical, someone who knew her tactics. "You have an old enemy?" Elijah asked, as they patched the mule. Clara nodded. "Name's Lieutenant Rourke. Worked recon in the militia. Left just before Durango. Always said I should have stayed a cook." Elijah arched a brow. "You two close?" he proposed once. Clara said flatly. "I said no." "Guess he didn't take it well." "No," she replied. "He tried to kill me instead." 3 days into the ravine, a storm pinned them in a cave. Lightning clawed the sky. Lucy huddled near Clara for the first time, burying her face into her side. Elijah watched the two of them. "She trusts you," he said. Clara didn't reply. She barely trusts me. You protect her, Clara said, but you don't let her see your wounds. She's a child. She's a survivor. Elijah moved closer. And what are you? Clara looked away. I'm what's left. On the fourth day, they reached an outpost, abandoned but not untouched, blood on the walls, a message carved into the door. Come home, Clara. Her breath hitched. Elijah read it, then looked to her. She said nothing. Inside they found supplies. Enough for 2 days. Someone had left them deliberately. A trap, Clara whispered. Still, they took what they needed. What choice did they have? That night, while Clara kept watch, Elijah approached. Moonlight lit the bruises under his eyes. He looked like a man, unraveling. I need to know, he said, if this is just about survival, or if you've already decided to disappear. Clara looked up, weary but steel hard. I can't disappear. Someone's trying to pull me back into the blood. He stepped closer. What if I asked you to stay? He said. Voice barely a whisper. To fight with me, not just for Lucy, but for me. Clara felt the heat of his presence, the pull of something she hadn't dared feel in years. But she also saw the shadow behind him, a flicker of movement, too silent for wind. Elijah. She shoved him aside, just as a dart struck the tree behind him. A man in dark gray stepped from the trees, pale eyes, familiar sneer. Clara, he drawled. Still choosing boys over bullets? Rourke, alive, and smiling. He raised his pistol. Rourke's pistol hovered in the moonlight, steady as ever. His pale eyes locked on Clara like she was still, the girl who'd walked away from him in that burned-out church in Durango. Elijah, Clara said softly, take Lucy and run. I'm not leaving you. She didn't have time to argue. She charged first, shoulder low, dodging just as Rourke fired. The shot ripped through the air and shattered the post beside her. She dove, rolled, came up with her blade drawn, but he was gone, slipped into the trees like smoke. Damn it! Elijah grabbed Lucy and ran for cover. Clara scanned the woods, pulse hammering, instincts blaring. Rourke didn't miss unless he meant to. That bullet wasn't for her. It was a warning or a message. By morning there was no sign of him. They moved fast, pushed deeper into the ridge until they reached a shale clearing overlooking a dried riverbed. Clara collapsed against a rock, blood seeping again from her side. You need to rest, Elijah said. She shook her head. No time. Elijah kneeled beside her. You knew he was alive, I suspected. Why didn't you say anything? Because he shouldn't be. Rourke was marked for treason. Last I heard, he was rotting in a labor camp outside Iron Valley. And now he's hunting you. Clara didn't speak. Her silence was the answer. That night, while Lucy slept inside a canvas lean-to, Elijah and Clara argued beneath the stars. You need to tell me the truth, Clara, he said. What happened in Durango? Clara stared into the fire. Her voice came low. Rourke didn't betray us. I did. Elijah blinked. What? She looked up, eyes hollow. Not on purpose. I passed information, coded reports to a contact I thought was loyal. I didn't know he was working with the enemy. Rourke found out. He tried to stop it, but by then it was too late. My entire unit gone, because I trusted the wrong man. Elijah stood, pacing. Why didn't Rourke expose you? Because he loved me, and because He said we were both guilty. He cut a deal, took the fall, got branded a traitor so I could disappear. And now he's here. She nodded. To collect. Elijah's voice broke. And you let me believe you were just a soldier with a scarred past. I was trying to leave it buried. He turned, eyes bitter. Or you were waiting for someone else to die cleaning it up. The next day, the trail forked. East was safer. West was faster. Clara chose west. Elijah didn't follow. I've got Lucy to think of, he said, and you've got a reckoning. Clara froze. So that's it? You lied to me. You endangered my daughter. She's not just yours anymore. Elijah turned sharply. Don't pretend you know what she needs. Clara's jaw clenched. I know she needs someone who's willing to fight for more than just land. He looked away. Without another word, Clara turned west, alone. She trekked the jagged ridge for hours, through blistered sun and ghost-quiet wind, her strength waning. By dusk, she reached a canyon carved by time and ash. And there, waiting in the shadow of a lone pine, stood Rourke. He didn't reach for a weapon, just looked at her with something like pity. You always had to be the hero, he said. She drew her blade. What do you want? I want the truth. The real truth. I already gave it. No, he said softly. You gave him the truth, not me. Clara's grip tightened. You want me to say I was wrong, that I should have loved you instead of fearing you. He stepped forward. No, I want you to admit you didn't just trust the wrong man in Durango. You were the wrong woman for the job. She lunged. Their fight was brutal, up close, unforgiving. Rourke blocked her blows, countered with military precision. But Clara had learned from pain. She bled, yes, but she didn't stop. Then, in the middle of the fight, he faltered, just a heartbeat. She saw the guilt flicker in his face, and she pressed the blade to his throat. Tell me why you're here, she hissed, and that's when he dropped the twist like a match to dry kindling. I didn't come to kill you, he said. I came to warn you. Clara blinked. Elijah, Rourke said. He's not who you think he is. He was the one who paid for the leak. He bought the intel, the land deals in Durango. He was already working with the cartel. Clara stepped back, shaken. No, you're lying. I was in the camps for 2 years, Clara. I found the records. He signed off on your unit's location. You weren't betrayed by an enemy. You were sold out by the man you just handed your heart to. Clara stumbled back, the world tilting beneath her. If you go back, Rourke said, he'll kill you. Clara didn't sleep that night. Rourke's words burrowed deep, poisoning every memory she'd shared with Elijah. Every look, every soft moment, every promise to protect Lucy, all of it re-examined under a harsher light. At dawn, she saddled up and rode hard, storming back toward the eastern trail, toward the truth. The sun clawed up over the rocks, as if it too wanted answers. By midday, she reached the small basin where Elijah had camped with Lucy. The campfire still smoldered. The lean-to was gone. They'd moved on, but not far. Clara found the tracks. One adult, one child, and one she hadn't expected. Boot prints with a drag, heavier on the left. Rourke's been here. Was it a bluff? A setup? Or worse, a warning she'd ignored? She followed them up the ridge trail until she found the clearing. Elijah stood there alone, rifle slung, staring down into a shallow ravine. Clara stopped several paces back, her own hand twitching near her hip. "Where's Lucy?" Elijah didn't turn. "With a friend. Safe." "That's not an answer." He exhaled. "I knew you'd come back. Rourke said you were behind. The Durango leak." Elijah finally turned, eyes dark, jaw clenched. Did he now? Is it true? He stepped forward, slow. "I did what I had to, Clara. My daughter was dying. I needed money, fast." Clara's heart cracked. "You sold out my unit. I didn't know it would lead to blood. I was told it was just coordinates, a supply route. They said it wouldn't cost lives." "They always say that." The wind howled between them. Clara drew her revolver. "Give me one reason I shouldn't end this now." Elijah stepped forward, no weapon in hand. "Because Lucy sees you as the woman her mother used to be. And because she still needs someone better than me." Clara hesitated. The weapon lowered, but her trust shattered. Then came the sound, hoofbeats in the distance. Rourke. He hadn't come alone. The gang emerged like vultures. 6 riders, bandanas and rifles, circling the basin like they'd rehearsed it. Rourke dismounted with a smirk. "Told you he'd confess," he said. Clara looked from him to Elijah. "This was a trap?" "No," Elijah said. "I didn't know they were coming." But Rourke laughed. "Oh, he didn't call us, but he led us. His mistake was thinking I'd let him keep her once he confessed." He nodded at Clara. "You were never meant to die in Durango, Clara. You were meant to serve. You're too dangerous to kill, too stubborn to tame. But if I can't control you—" He raised his pistol. "Then I'll burn you out." Clara moved first. She fired at the nearest rider, dropped him. Elijah dove for cover behind a boulder. Chaos erupted. Bullets screamed through the air. Clara took a graze to the shoulder. Rourke clipped her side again. She fought like the soldier she once was. Precise, brutal, beautifully unrelenting, but it wasn't enough. Rourke charged her as her last bullet missed. They crashed into the dirt. He pinned her, hands around her throat. "You're just another broken woman with a cause," he hissed. Clara wheezed, fingers scrabbling for a stone. Then, crack. A shot rang out. Rourke's grip slackened. He fell. Behind him, Elijah, smoking rifle in hand, blood running down his temple. "I'm not the only one who can change," he said. The battle ended in blood and smoke. Only 2 of Rourke's men fled. Clara slumped beside Elijah, both of them breathing hard, broken, but alive. "I should hate you," she said. "I already hate myself." They buried Rourke at the ridge, beneath a cairn of stones. Clara stood over the grave, silent. Elijah placed his wedding band atop the pile. "I can't undo it," he said, "but I can try to atone." Clara nodded once. They found Lucy the next day, hidden at an old way station with a trader family Elijah had trusted once. Clara scooped her up, held her longer than she ever had. "Are we safe now?" Lucy asked. Clara didn't lie. "Not yet." They moved again, deeper into outlaw territory, through the worm flats and dust ridge, hunted by ghosts and men alike. Supplies ran thin. Elijah grew weaker. His wound festered. And then came the heartbreak. Elijah collapsed one night near an abandoned chapel. Fever had taken hold. Clara tried everything: boiled herbs, cooled cloth, whispered prayers. "I'm not making it out," he said quietly. Clara shook her head. "Don't you dare say that." "I have to." He looked to Lucy, asleep in the pew. "She's your girl now." No, Clara whispered, voice trembling. She's ours. He smiled faintly, then teach her to fight like her mother. Died before dawn. Clara buried him with her dog tags. The last piece of the soldier she'd once been. The wind that day didn't howl, it wept. From that point on, Clara changed, no longer hiding, no longer running. She trained Lucy daily, taught her how to move through silence, how to trust her gut, how to shoot straight, but only if she had to. They lived in motion, always one step ahead. But word spread, of a woman with eyes like a wounded hawk, and a child who walked like she, carried the sun in her spine. People called her the widow soldier, but she was more than that. She was coming. Dust rolled across the dead town of Marrow Creek like a final breath. Clara stepped through the cracked gates, every inch of her a scar. Her duster flapped in the wind, her revolver low at her hip. Beside her, Lucy moved like a shadow, small, steady, and silent. Her braid tied back with one of Elijah's old leather cords. They had returned not for vengeance, but for truth and justice. The town was hollowed out, half-burned buildings and abandoned saloons lining the street like open graves, but it wasn't empty. On the far end, standing beneath the rusted gallows, was Sheriff Alton Vex, a name whispered in outlaw circles like a curse. He was tall, cold, eyes like glass, and beside him, bound and bruised, was Anna, a survivor Clara hadn't seen since Durango. Anna had been one of hers, her scout, her comrade, her friend, alive. Didn't think you'd crawl back here, Vex said, his voice dry as bone. Clara didn't blink. Didn't think you'd still be too much of a coward to face me without a hostage. Vex smiled thinly. You always had too much faith in people. That's what killed your unit, Clara, and your man. She stepped forward. You sold us out. Rourke was your cover, but you were the real broker. Vex chuckled. He was useful and stupid. You, though, you always knew the game. You just never wanted to admit you were part of it. Clara drew her gun. Vex raised his hand, and a dozen rifles cocked from the rooftops. I die, he said, and so does everyone you care about. I've got one left, Clara said, and she's not afraid. Lucy stepped forward then, holding a flare, not a weapon, but a message. She dropped it to the dry hay near the gallows. Fire burst. To life, the outlaws scattered, startled. Clara shot two before they even aimed. Gunfire exploded. Lucy dove behind a trough. Clara moved like lightning, weaving through broken crates, dropping men one by one. Her shoulder burned, her breath ragged. She reached Anna, cut her free. Anna, still strong despite the wounds, grabbed a fallen rifle. Thought you were dead. Not yet, Clara growled. The firefight blazed through Marrow Creek. Bullets tore through old wood, glass shattered, screams echoed, and then Vex ran. He fled through the back of the jailhouse, out into the open, scrubland. Clara followed, heart pounding, blood hot. She found him near the cliff's edge, gun drawn, bleeding from a shot to the leg. You don't get to run, she said, breathing hard. You think killing me fixes anything? He rasped. The system's still rotten. You're just another broken tool. Clara stepped closer. You're right. She dropped her gun. He blinked. I'm not here to kill you, she said. I'm here to make you face it. She took out a small recording device, military grade, clicked it on. I want you to confess, out loud. You betrayed the West Ridge unit. You sold their location. You let Rourke take the blame. and you signed Elijah's death warrant." Vex spat blood. "You can't make me. I'm not asking." Behind her, Anna raised her rifle. "Say it," Clara said, "or we make damn sure your body's never found." Vex stared at her. Then something in him cracked. He spoke. It wasn't loud. It wasn't proud. But it was truth. He confessed it all. They returned to the town as the fire died down. Clara handed the recording to a courier who still had contacts in the Union Authority. Proof, finally, that she hadn't failed. She'd been betrayed. Lucy ran into her arms. "You came back," the girl whispered. "Always," Clara said. But just when she thought it was over, Anna grabbed her wrist. "You need to hear this," Anna said, voice trembling. "Before I was taken, I saw Elijah's name on a document. Not from the cartel, from the Union." Clara's breath caught. "What?" He wasn't just trying to save Lucy. He was working with them. Deep cover. His betrayal wasn't personal. It was sanctioned. 3 weeks later, the wind moved softer through Dust Hollow. The gallows were gone, burned to ash. The signs of battle, shattered glass, splintered beams, bloodstains, had begun to fade beneath sand and time. A new sign hung over the old sheriff's office. Clinic and safe house, carved by hand. Clara leaned against the railing out front, arms crossed, a mug of coffee warming her fingers. She wore no badge, no uniform, just a simple linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, scars visible. Lucy sat nearby, whittling wood with quiet concentration. Not a child untouched by violence, but one shaped by survival. Stronger now, more aware. Anna walked out from the old jailhouse, now patched and painted, a bandage wrapped around her ribs. "We got word," Anna said. The recording made it to the Union Tribunal. Clara raised an eyebrow. "They're opening an investigation. Charges pending. Might take years." Clara sipped her coffee. "Years are fine. Truth doesn't rot." That night, Clara and Anna lit a lantern for the ones they'd lost. Elijah, the West Ridge unit, the people who died without justice. Lucy placed a small drawing beneath the lantern, a crude picture of 3 people, a woman with short hair and a long coat, a girl with a bow, and a man with a soft smile standing behind them. She didn't say it was Elijah. She didn't have to. Clara couldn't sleep. She found herself standing by the edge of town, looking out at the open desert, where the moon spilled silver across the sands. Anna approached, silent, then spoke. "You ever think about leaving it all behind?" Clara nodded. "Every night." "But you won't." "No," Clara said, "because the war doesn't stop just because we're tired of fighting." A silence passed. Then Anna pulled something from her pocket, a folded page from a Union dispatch. "There's more," Anna said. "The report I found with Elijah's name. It mentioned a code name, Cinderlight, some kind of deep project, still classified." Clara frowned. "Never heard of it. Neither had I." Anna stepped closer. "Whatever Elijah was part of, it wasn't just about Dust Hollow. It was bigger. Global." Clara studied the page, then tucked it into her coat. So the war hadn't ended. Not really. It had just changed shape. Morning came quiet. Lucy ran ahead to open the old trading post. Anna stayed behind, tending to the town's makeshift medic table, and Clara stood at the front steps again, eyes on the rising sun. A traveler passed by. Dust-covered, eyes cautious. A young woman with a strange tattoo on her wrist. Clara nodded to her. The woman paused. "Is this place safe?" Clara smiled, faintly. It is now. Emotional punch. Final voiceover. They thought I came here to die, to disappear like smoke. But I came here to remember who I was, to teach the next generation that strength isn't silence, that the past doesn't define you, but it sure as hell teaches you how to fight. They call me the widow soldier, but I am more than the men I buried, more than the war they tried to burn out of me. And if the storm rises again, they'll remember my name. Closing visual. Clara walks into the sun, coat trailing, Lucy by her side. Behind them, Dust Hollow breathes again. Ahead, new trails, new fires, a world worth defending.